I stay focused around kind of three things. One is clarity, second is candor, and third is care. That I look forward every morning as well, keeping myself centered around that. And I'll give you an example what I mean by that. Clarity in terms of today's market that's changing every second is really important. Clarity on what you're trying to accomplish, what are the three outcomes, three things you can solve, and cutting out every other noise. And that being clear about that with your team and then giving them the autonomy to go figure those out for you. But getting that clarity in, I think that's where I spend my time and focusing on what are the most important priorities that we as a company, as a group, should be focusing on, and being candor with the team I'm leading, with the partners, with teams that I'm collaborating with, to being transparent. This is what we know, and what I don't know, I don't know, right? And how do we convert that we don't know into data points rather than we haven't done? Do a thorough job in your research, but make sure that if you don't know, you're transparent about it, and how help. You'll be surprised how often your partners, your teams come up with something when you're transparent with them. This is, you don't know about it, and what can be the data points that you can collect to make that, uh, you know, not knowing into knowing, and things like that. And that also brings up trust with them. Uh, Third, I do deeply care about my teams that I work with. I think at the end of the day, yes, our goal is to be business centric. Our goal is to being successful as a team, as a company. But at the end of the day, we are also humans. Being caring about their psychological safety, making sure they are in an environment which is enabling them to win, enabling them to succeed, is what we focus on. Is it always perfect? No, but it's a growing journey. I think we take together.
Mm. I'd love to start with that clarity first, and I think you've shared, how, really knowing clearly the direction that we want to go with and the key priorities. We look at strategy planning. It's an integral part of leadership. Now, maybe you could share a little bit around sort of the number of teams that you're involved with and that you're interacting with on a day-to-day basis. I just to give a bit of an idea of what we're looking at here. And then, how do you go about that thought process? How do you go about, with a new project emerging or a new direction that's coming your way? To gain that clarity? What would be your process to move through that?
Yeah. To give you a kind of quick scale, we sit around somewhere between 35 to 40 products. That means I lead those 30 to 40 solutions. And you can imagine, to stay ahead, you continue to expand to that. We, of course, as a core team, interact, but I like to collaborate with innovation happening across Hitachi. So that's kind of my role as well. Of course, that we stay centric into innovating as our core group, but we also want to monetize, make sure other innovators in the company, we are collaborating and reaching out to them, making sure so that number can become really huge really soon. But we also try to, and that's part of my role as well, to making sure I'm reaching out to them. But in all of that, getting to your initial question, how to stay clear and how to stay that centered, um, I'd like to define it as our North Star within that clarity, right? Within that North Star of what are we trying to do? How does, and my North Star is typically at a very, very 10,000 feet level, as we are trying to, ultimately, as businesses, trying to enhance your top line and shrink your bottom line. You're trying to make sure you can provide more value to your customers while getting more efficient in delivery at the core of it, right? So that's at the center of it, how we are defining it. But then it's my job to translate into what does it mean for these groups? What does it mean when we are looking at a particular solution, a particular innovation? How is it fitting into that vision? And getting to those outcomes is where I spend a lot of energy on, but I try to keep it, like I said, simple. How is it going to make us better? How is it going to provide value to our customer and help them be successful? Right.